C4. I am the general manager of the Home Garden right down the road. Been there a long time, 21 years. So I know the community pretty well, but this is my first time doing sports. So I mean, those of you that have been on here is, but I want to go around the room. Yes, we'll start with you, Terry.
Terry Parks, Sports Commission, Baseball Officer for Tourism.
Jared Grail, I'm attorney here in town.
Fred Poppy, Parks and Recreation Director, City of Palm Bay.
Jamie DeGiro, General Manager, Best Western Days here in Cocoa Beach.
Angela Essing, I'm the Office of Tourism.
Steve Scott, Financial Advisor.
And Mims, Public Business at Florida Tech, I'm an instructor there.
Jake Hornbacher, National Director of Sports at Triple S.
John Giantonio, Deputy Director, Office of Tourism. Peter Crane, I'm the Director for the Office of Tourism. We can.
And in the audience, introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Mike Rogers. I'm the founder of the Grind for Life organization. It's an organization based here in Cocoa Beach. It helps people who are traveling long distances for cancer treatment. We help them with their travel costs. We also share my story. I'm a two-time sarcoma survivor and a pro skateboarder. And we also run the Grind for Life skateboard series for the country. We've been doing that for 19 years now.
And my name is Jill Gresco. I'm the Executive Director of Grind for Life.
And who's on?
Casey, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, Casey Mahar with Red Bull, event marketing manager for most of Florida. I actually live in Fort Lauderdale and in California right now. So thanks for letting me call in.
Amisha, you want to go next?
Yes, my name is Namisha. I'm the current chair of Canaveral Council of Technical Societies. We consist of 16 technical organizations, technical societies like IEEE and COSI, SF WIN. And what we do is we collaborate to provide technical interchange and collaboration. And we conduct conferences like Space Congress is one of the things we do for CCTS. And we also participate together on engineering activities.
Okay, perfect. Joseph, do you want to go next?
Yes, hi, I'm Joseph Gary D'Ambrisi. With the Men's Senior Baseball League in New York. We are a national adult baseball organization. We host tournaments for adult men throughout the country.
And lastly, Savannah.
Hi, I'm Savannah Alonso with the National Kidney Foundation of Florida. We are an affiliate to the national office located centrally in Orlando, Florida, but I actually live over in Brevard County. We always are so appreciative of the support of the TDC for our annual NKF Rich Salix Surf Fest, going 28 years strong now in Cocoa Beach. So thank you.
Okay, and Chelsea, want to introduce yourself? I'm assuming you're Chelsea.
I am. Hi, I'm Chelsea Parker. I'm the general manager of the Home 2 Suites in Viera.
All right, with that being said, I just want to do a couple of housekeeping issues. They would like me to talk about microphone etiquette. So if everybody can make sure when you speak, that you do speak into your microphone, have it turned on, close to your mouth, and state your name. They need it for the minutes when we're making motions and whatnot. And then, of course, we go by Robert's Rules of Order, but I think everybody already knows that. We don't need to go into too many details on that. We have a couple action items that I'll need a motion for. First one is approval of the agenda. Motion. Your name, Lynn Lynn's motion. Is there a second?
Second motion, Jamie DeGiro.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carried unanimously. And then just a reminder, we need to say committee members requested to disclose any conflict of interest with the agenda items or conflicting business relationships? Any conflicts, no conflicts? There are none. All right, we'll move on to C, approval of the sports committee minutes of August 9th. Did you all receive, y'all should have received these from Terry and had a chance to read them, so I just need a motion for approval on the minutes.
Jamie Tenero, motion to approve minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Steve Scott. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. On to D, appointment of a sports committee vice chair. Anybody have a motion to elect somebody as our vice chair? Preferably somebody that's been on the sports committee in the past. I would like to make a motion if no one else has one. Jamie? Would Jamie like to serve as the vice chair? All right, so I made a motion. Is there a second to elect Jamie as the vice chair?
Mims, second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. You are easy. Okay, next we move on to Terry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In regards to the 2023 National Kidney Foundation Rich Daily Cert Fest, it was originally granted an amount of $12,000 for the cycle 2 of fiscal year 22-23. And we would like to carry forward that award amount from fiscal year 22-23 to fiscal year 23-24. We also have Ms. Alonzo available for any questioning in regards to the change of the date. The original date was September 2nd through September 4th. The new date is October 7th through October 9th, 2023.
Savannah, is there a reason for moving it?
Yes, so our volunteer committee, since we're largely run by volunteers, has decided that the weather in October is a lot more agreeable for setting up scaffolding and working on the beach all day. The waves are typically better in October. We have less, I mean, there's still the threat of hurricanes, but we've gotten unlucky several times with hurricanes during the September date. So that, and also there's less competition with some other big surfing contests that take place during Labor Day weekend. We've been working with the Westgate Cocoa Beach Pier, who's very agreeable to the change. It brings in extra revenue to them on a normally slower weekend. And a lot of the hotels that we partner with are also agreeable to that because it's not a holiday weekend where they're already going to be booked up, but we can hopefully generate some more revenue for them during a slower time.
I agree. As a hotelier, it's better to not have it a holiday weekend. So we love events when we're not as busy. Anybody else have any questions for Savannah? Anybody want to make a motion to approve the date change and the funding? Anyone?
Motion to approve.
Chelsea made a motion. Is there a second?
Fred Poppy, second.
Fred Poppy, second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we will start our presentations for our fiscal year 23-24 sports grant cycle 1 applicants. First, we will hear from Ms. Casey Mager. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, with the Red Bull Foam Breakers surfing competition. At this time, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, Casey Mahar, very hard to pronounce, sorry, no worries. So Red Bull Foam Wreckers is a foam top surf event. It's actually happened in Cocoa Beach. We've done it there 2 years already. It's always happening. Well, it happened 1 year, the last weekend of October, which was Halloween weekend. We've since pushed it to the first weekend of November to avoid turtle season. It's a participatory event, which means anybody can participate. It is a nationally run program, so it happens throughout the country all year, which obviously gains a lot of momentum for people to come. Super fun event where people participate. In the past, we've sold out at 128 spots and had a large waiting list. We don't see any changes in that happening. And we obviously bring in a large group of people to run the event, in addition to obviously all the participants and spectators that come for the day. So it's a sort of all-day event on the beach, and super excited to bring it back to Cocoa. I don't know specifically if you want me to talk about anything else or if you have any questions specific to it.
Are there any questions from the committee?
Yeah, I just have one. I read through your application and it did say that Red Bull paid for over 75 nights. You just want to elaborate a bit on that, how that works?
Sure. So just people that we had staff, we did a meeting around the event as well. So we just took up different hotel blocks. I think 4 Points, the Hilton, we were at the Courtyard. So we didn't have one specific block. We essentially allow people to choose from a couple, depending on what their preference is.
Okay, but that the sponsorship pays for those? How is that?
No, sorry, Red Bull as like an event organizer, we paid for them
Okay.
as part of our budget.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Mahar.
Thanks.
Next, we'll hear from Misha Bias with Canaveral Council of Technical Societies, Space Coast First Robotics Showdown Competition.
Can you guys see it, my screen?
Yep, now we can hear you.
We can hear you now.
Yeah, but can you see my screen?
No, we cannot yet.
Oh, It says you're sharing the screen.
Angela, let's go ahead and use the.
Is this the, oh, there it goes. It's just a little delay. Okay, perfect.
Okay, so CCTS hosts Space Coast Showdown mission. It's what we do is it's a STEM event, science, technology, engineering, and it's for K-12 students. So we take all these Florida-based robotic teams from different school districts, and we hold a competition here in Viera. And most of the participants are students and their teams, and this is for STEM events, so it allows them to introduces them, and it's most likely these kids will go into technology professions, science and technology professions. And we clearly need this in this evolving technology environment that we live in, ever increasing technologies. Anyways, so this is a competition, is a collaboration with First Robotics and Brevard County School District. Brevard County provides us the venue, and it's in kind. And it is a competition. The students get usually trophies and honors for participating and winning in the competition. The attendees is free. It's free to everyone. And most of the people that show up in this event are NASA, Air Force, manufacturing. We even had one time where one of the robots architecture was very attractive by an agriculture company, and they invited the team to present, and then they used their robotic architecture to develop manufacturing prototype to actually pick up dirt and move it around. So a lot of people come to this event, even the politicians. Why is it not moving? I don't know.
It's just super slow. Sorry, just give it a couple of seconds.
Okay. Okay, there it is. Okay, so for local economy impacts, I mean, most of the students are coming from North Florida and South Florida teams, and the teachers, the students, the media, the parents, the spectators, some of the political leaders and volunteers, they all have to live for a couple of nights in a hotel. And so they have hotel rooms, they book hotel rooms and food for 2 days. And supplies, robots sometimes need work and they go and buy their supplies at Home Depot. So, I mean, the things are getting expensive these days. So yes, I mean, we give them T-shirts, we provide volunteer foods. We do have a lot of supplies during the event. So this is mainly the budget for this year. For the last 2 times, our budget was a little less, but also things have kind of gotten a little expensive as well. And we do charge the team. So we have a participant fee that we charge, and then we get other member organization from CCTS. They chip in for some donation for the event. So CCTS mission is to promote STEM activities, technical and scientific and engineering recognition and activities. We bond and we collaborate with each other's societies to promote engineering conferences, papers, and technical interchange. We invite each other to, we're currently mostly virtual and networking events. We encourage space and community activities, mainly targeted towards engineering. And CCTS does do their major event, which is Space Congress, and now in collaboration with SpaceCom. So it just happened in February. And our membership is only $20 to other organizations. And sometimes we become member of each other. So it's kind of, sometimes it's in kind. And most of the members, they become our members for 5 years. And these are the list of some of our members. Each one, some of these presidents from these organizations do attend CCTS board meeting and participate in activity and volunteer to some of the activities that CCTS sponsor. One of them is Space Congress, and the other one is Showdown. And in Showdown, you'll see IEEE, SAMI, and COSI, some of these other organization volunteers, including First Alumni, basically volunteering to host the event. Currently, I'm the chair of CCTS, but Wendy Austin is the first robotics regional director. She's our secretary on the board, and Robert Shaw is our treasurer, and he's a West Point graduate. So we are requesting, of course, funding. Stop sharing for a second. From you guys for the event.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. At this time, we'll take questions from the committee.
Yeah, I just one question. You ran it last year. Can you tell us a little bit about the success and the number of hotel rooms from last year? It's in all.
Okay, so we couple of times, each of the teachers and students, they pay for their own hotel. It's not paid by CCTS, but based on our teams, we get 22 to 25 teams and volunteers. Each team brings about 20 to 30 people, even more, based on parents and people are driving all the way up here. So I would say there's at least more than 250 rooms being used in the area, in the Riviera area. We are not a beach. We don't have anything on the beach, so it's going to be in the Riviera area.
So it was 25 teams or 22 to 25 teams that you attracted last year?
Yes, 22 teams, and this year it'll be more because we had extra money last year, so we don't charge the same teams that are going to be participating. So the way it works is they're paid forward for this year.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome. I mean, whatever money we have, we either give it back to them if we have extra money, or we give back to the STEM for next year, or they pay forward. So then they don't get charged for registration next year. But the teams get charged $250 per registration. And this year, we also going to have a Lego showcase. We just did a Lego event at the Sands Museum, History Museum, and Legos is for kindergarten from elementary school. And then there's a Lego robots, and they do little activities as well. So we are trying to expand, we are trying to grow and include more other robotic activities into our current menu.
Any further questions?
When is the event going to take place for this?
It'll be in August, end of August. It's a 2-day Friday. It takes us all day to put the field together. The field alone is anywhere from $5,000 to $6,000 that we pay for. And then the field gets in here, and then it takes a whole team from First Alumni and all these other organizations. They come in and put a field together. And then next day is the full competition, all day competition. And then at the end, we invite some local politician or celebrity to come and give the awards. But it's fully science and STEM event. It's for the kids.
Madam Chair, just a quick question for Terry. So this would fall under this would be under a new event category, right? Not under the cycle one?
This would actually be cycle one because they actually had this event last school year. So they've had it here in the county before. Just never received any funding from our office.
But if they're having it this coming August.
Correct.
Actually, I wanted to see if I had a question for Casey with Red Bull, if possible. I'm not sure if we're finished here. I just wanted to see if I could go about it. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your time.
Welcome.
Madam Chair, may we go back to?
You stop sharing?
Yeah.
I think I'm not sharing it.
Okay, can we go back? We have a question for the Red Bull event.
Casey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. On the budget presented, there wasn't any information with regards to anticipated revenue or sponsorship on the budget. Is that something that you anticipate will be getting to us?
We do have a $20 entry fee that goes right to their shirts and things that they get on site. So there's no essential profit from that.
Okay.
And then as far as sponsors, we just have in kind. They just bring activity to the site to make it a better experience.
Okay. Just, when we review this has been a point of emphasis in terms of budgets, which include obviously both expense and revenue. So that's something that we are looking for. That's been a point of emphasis over the last couple of years. So I would encourage all applicants to make sure that they include that. And it's not because we, look upon you if a revenue of a profit is generated, but it gives us a better understanding of what our funds are being utilized for, because the majority of this should be for marketing.
Yes, for sure.
The other question I had is that this is apparently the third year you've held this event. What kind of room nights have you generated? So I was trying to find that information. I might have overlooked it, but I know you're looking for 200. You're looking for a request of 5,000, which is the minimum threshold for 200 room nights. But what has it done in the last couple of years?
Sure. So we as Red Bull, again, pay for about 75 or 80 room nights. And then the majority of our participants are not from your area. So they have come in the night before. Unfortunately, I know where they've come from and that they've been, but I don't have an actual number because I don't have an actual room block that we secure for those people since they're on their own. But with 128 people coming in and about 75% are outside of your area.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Madam Chair, just a quick thing, one point about that, and then Amy knows the history of this too, is, we are always challenged to come up with room nights that or hotels are sometimes good, sometimes not so good at providing, sales list information. So one of the thoughts as we get into for the people that are new to think about, and we get into the discussion about guidelines, is would the committee consider using, letting staff use a formula to determine room nights? And just let me describe quickly what that might look like. We have a partnership and a contract the county does with USSSA. And, the first couple of years, we tried to hunt down room nights was very difficult. So finally, the Board of County Commissioners approved us using a formula that both parties agreed on. And what it was we looked at how many people were attending events from outside 75 miles, which is, a pretty good distance to say that if you're coming from in excess of 75 miles, you're most likely staying overnight, especially for a multi-day event. And then what we would do is we would divide that by the number of event days, multiply times the number of event days, and then divide it by basically a figure that we determine were average number of players per room, which in that case, it's baseball. We were using 1.7. We could use a different number for different events depending on what the events are. Obviously, if it's just as an example, a road race type of event, they're probably, it's not a whole team of people. They're more coming as individuals. So you probably not use 1.7, you might use 1 or 1.2 or something like that. And then for team type events, then you might use the 1.7. So just throwing that out there because that would, I think, help, certainly help staff, but I think would help the committee as well get to a more sort of accurate assessment of what room nights are being generated by these different events.
Just to add on to what Pete was suggesting, that's not something that occurs only here in Broward County, but it's actually done industry-wide in the sports industry across the United States. It's due to the extraordinary difficulty in tracking teams and individuals that are coming in and spending their own money, not spending the boss's money. So they're staying at a myriad of different properties. So what Peter is suggesting is something that is absolutely 100% something that happens across the industry. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there nothing where these organizations need to know whether people are staying? Is there something, I mean, and one point, a couple of questions. 1.7 seems low. I know and if I have sports teams, they're usually 4 or 1.7. Sure you agree. So I would want to look at those formulas. I'm not opposed to it, but I would want to look at those formulas. But I do think there should be something where these organizations are talking to their attendees and they find out some information. I know it's not things are said and done. We used to do the whole pay to play and all those fun things. It did not always work.
I yield to you, sir. Yeah, I can speak to that. I mean, if they're here asking for funding, it's really nothing to ask them to put together an Excel document with where their participants are from, the zip code of where they live, and bring that information to us. That's very, very standard across the industry.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to our next presenter, Mr. Dan Breezy with the Men's Senior Baseball League, MSBL Holiday Classic. For yours, sir.
Can you unmute your phone? So your computer.
You're upside down.
You have to apologize because I'm actually sitting on the ceiling. Secondly, I can hear the panel okay, but I'm really struggling hearing the committee. So I have my ear to the modem. So if you see me like this, it's a little awkward, but that's what I'm doing. So I'm with the Men's Senior Baseball League. We're a national organization. We're in every state in the country. And it's baseball for people of all ages above the age of 18. So many of our events go into the 70 and over bracket. We have a father and son type of bracket. And we host some tournaments throughout the country. This particular tournament is 24 years old. It originally started over at the Wide World of Sports at Disney. But we grew out of that, and we're honored and extremely happy to be at the Space Coast Complex. We completed our 4th year at the Space Coast Complex only 2 or 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Because of the tournament starts on a Friday, ends on a Monday, so our participants come in on a Thursday and they leave on a Monday. Because of field limitations, we can only offer it out to 3 age groups. That's a 30 and over, 45 and over, and a 54 and over age group. The 54 and over age group is actually our largest age group for this particular tournament. We market this internally through our various sources throughout the country. So and we post results throughout the entire country. We have our online magazine that also publicizes it, and everybody's aware that we host this particular event in Viera, which I'm astounded on how rapidly the area is developing, by the way. We get teams from 95% of our teams are all need lodging, and rough math back of the napkin, 50% are from out of state. So, and just now I just jotted down some, not just states, but cities. Teams came from Maine, Chicago, Massachusetts, California, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Maryland, New York. I'll add a subtext to that, Long Island, St. Louis, Cleveland, New Jersey, Washington, DC, just to name a few. And as I mentioned, this is our 24th year doing this tournament. We get many of the same teams that want to come back each and every year. One of our limitations is just having the appropriate field facilities. You know, we're little leaguers. We're all grown-ups. I still play. We're all grown-ups, but we're still little leaguers. And, you know, just great promotion on health and fitness. You know, baseball for us won't get us in shape, but it's a reason for us to be in shape all year. And we get, I think we serve as good role models for our kids and what have you. This year we had about 1,000 participants, just players. Of course, many of them bring their families. And sorry to repeat myself, but the tournament runs from a Friday to a Monday. So teams come in on Thursday. Now, we in the past have had room blocks through Anthony Travel. This year we did not. And our internal travel partner, that's their own profit center, not us, but they had trouble getting room blocks at a lot of the local hotels, but we did get room blocks in the county. But all participants, since they're adults, we can't really dictate to them where to stay. So they stay within a reasonably close range. I had some teams that were traveling 15 minutes to the ballpark complaining that they had to travel 15 minutes to the ballpark because the other hotels were either sold out or the pricing just became, for them, elevated and a bit prohibitive. But everybody stays in either, you know, a VRBO, an Airbnb, or in a hotel to be part of the event. And we had one team that is from in-county. We had 3 teams from Orlando. Other than that, everybody, the rest, the roughly 50% is from out of state, and the balance was from in-state, and probably more specifically from South Miami, like Broward and Dade County. So that's about our overview. And I'll be happy to take questions, but you'll have to forgive me because I'm gonna have to put my ear to the modem.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Do we have any questions for Mr. D'Ambrisi at this time?
Dan, do you have your dates solidified for this upcoming event?
I beg your pardon. If that was a question, I didn't hear it.
The question asked was about the dates that you have scheduled for this event.
The dates that we just completed were March 17th to the 20th.
I just, on your event marketing plan, it states March 15th to the 18th, 2024. So I'm not sure if there's discrepancy there.
For 2024, yeah.
Correct.
So in speaking with the general manager at USSSA, he was saying that it's going to become increasingly difficult for us to, for them to be able to host us over a weekend tournament, because they have their own proprietary tournaments, and that's going to make it a challenge for this time of year for them to give us weekend dates. So I believe those 2024 dates might be weekday dates, and at least I hope so, for the sake of this explanation. So if that's the case, then we'll host this tournament from a Monday to a Friday, or Monday to a Thursday, if we're limited to that.
Dan, are you set on having it in March? Is that non-movable?
Again, apologize. I think your question was, must the tournament be held in March? Actually, for a great many years, tournament was actually held over Martin Luther King's birthday weekend. Then 2 years ago, USSSA moved us to February. And this past year, they moved us to the dates that I just recited in March. So we're kind of at the mercy of whatever USSSA is going to afford us. And so originally last year, they moved us to May, but I respectfully said that unfortunately no one will come in May. So they squeezed this into March. But the general manager this year was again saying that it's going to be difficult for a weekend tournament, which of course is not optimal. It's not optimal given that people are going to have to take off from work to a much more significant degree. But I'm at the mercy of what they're providing me.
Dan, I'm not sure if you know, but my name is Jake Kornbacher. I'm the National Events Director at USSSA. Unfortunately for us, February, March, April is prime travel ball season. And we are sold out every weekend on weekend events that are bringing in youth teams from all over the place. So I think that's where some of the difficulty comes from. So just to confirm for the committee here, what were the week dates that the general manager gave to you? Because I can speak on USSSA behalf that the weekend date will not work.
Yeah, and I certainly understand. I've been sitting down with Terry. He was very gracious in providing me with an explanation of some of the constraints that they have. And I perfectly understand. U-Trip has a lot of proprietary needs. So the dates for next year are still somewhat up in the air. Just at this point, kind of more suggestions than anything that was scheduled with pen to paper in a book. I think actually Terry said that they're still gathering all the requests and dates that they internally will require. So so my firm definitive dates are still to be determined.
Are there any more questions? Mr. Dambrisi?
I do have one. You said about 1,000 participants. Does that break down to about 40 teams?
Yeah, so this year we had 49 teams. So we average roughly about 20 participants per team, plus we're going to have some coaches as well. We also get a very interesting cross-section of participants, ranging from successful business people to your average guy, but we also get some ex-professional baseball players. This year, well, just about every year, we're blessed with the good humor of Doug Flutie. So Doug Flutie is incredibly gracious with his time. Everybody that addresses him wants a photo with him. He's incredibly gracious. And we get some other, in this event, some other Major League Baseball players that may not necessarily be household names.
Do we have any other questions?
Has there been any discussion about any dates in January? I know you mentioned Martin Luther King weekend. Is that something that's viable for UAAA or no? Are you guys booked out?
January and February is tough. But there has been discussions on the end of March and the beginning of April, of course, during the week on our end.
Yeah, so January, February, March dates, they would all work for me, even right up until the first week in April, I would imagine. My issue would be that, as I mentioned, a lot of the teams travel from out of state, and they're traveling from a lot of the northern cold weather areas. But once April hits, especially once you get past Easter, then their own city leagues start, and it's harder. Then there's less incentive for participants to travel and play, because now, they say, well, I'm not going to play in the tournament because my own league has started. I'm going to play here. So that's why past the first weekend in April or the end of March might become a little bit of a marketing challenge.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You as well. We also have Mitch Barnes. Mitch, did you want to speak to your current applications, or do you just want to wait for the summary of Beach and Boards later on in the agenda?
I think I can wait.
Okay, all right. Please note, committee members, that we have one applicant has rescinded their application. That's Mr. Robert Powell with the Cairo Games. At this time, they do not feel that they are in a position to go forward, so they're going to explore those possibilities for next year. Again, that's Robert Powell, of Cairo Games. In your packets. Next up on the agenda, we have the fiscal year 23-24 sports grant cycle 2, review and discussion of the current sports grant and new sports event development grant guidelines, application and score sheet. You received this in the email a while ago, and there are some, in looking at those guidelines, the shaded areas are areas that are not able to be changed at all. The only items that are eligible to be discussed are the ones that are not graded or highlighted in your packets. So we will just go around and have fun with discussion.
Yeah, and I just say that the reason that is those were given to us by the county attorney's office, so those are sort of more legal areas. So my recommendation, Madam Chair and Terry, is to just go section by section, and then, you know, if that section's okay, just vote for it. That's kind of how we've done it in the other committees. It's worked pretty well. So just go, you know, right through the section, each number at a time, and capture any potential changes, and then let the committee vote for each section, and then go from there.
Terry, if you would just point out any differences, even though we can change things, if you've notated or made any changes within the document, bring that to the committee's attention so they have a better, they can, you know, just zoom in on something.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. At this time, we will take a look at section 1, the introduction and background of our current sports grant program. Are there any changes or any suggestions to that section in particular?
So I have more of a question. Speaking to the robotics event, if you look at the introduction background, it's very sports related. Would the wording need to be changed if we were to entertain the robotics competition?
The name, actually, we have it sports and events grant program. So I think, because I think that'll suffice. It will qualify for that particular, the name as it is.
Okay, even enhance athletic events, seeking financial assistance. Just didn't know if we needed to be a little more technical.
Oh, you mean in the actual, in the paragraph?
Change any of that wording that specifically says athletic. Or the question.
That's an interesting question too, because we've talked about esports in here before and how, you know, there's such a growing market for that. So should we just go ahead and address it in the text and just add esports as well?
Madam Chair, we can strike athletic.
Where does it get muddy between cultural and sports? I guess would be my
Right.
question.
Yeah,
Two
I'd be
different types of
concerned. Yeah, I'd be concerned if you just make it too generic. I'd rather add something about esports in there, and then, you know, that way you're covering both sports and athletic events and esports events. So my suggestion would be, Madam Chair, that the Brevard County Tourist Development Council is first sentence, and please go out to the sports and events grant program for tourism or sports related organizations to support and enhance athletic events and esports events, seeking financial assistance for events held on Florida's Space Coast.
Okay, any discussion?
I think your point, Christy, though, is how do we differentiate between something that is sort of robotics, STEM, science? Is that more of the cultural realm, or does that fall within the purview of this committee? We really haven't answered that. I think adding E to esports makes sense, but how do we differentiate between the two?
For instance, the air show, that could be athletic.
And I think the only reason why it doesn't is because of the scope of the event. And that's why it's outside of the scope of this committee, else it probably would have been if it was smaller.
Yeah, certainly the boat races could, I think in the past had qualified for a
Right.
sports grant, but we said, well, you're so big,
Exactly.
just apply under major events.
And just the environment is evolving before our eyes, as you know, even FIT, they have a very, even though it's just started the esports program, that's where it's eventually going to be coming to, more esports, robotics. And I think, because it is a competition, that's, that in and of itself lends itself to a sporting event to me.
Perhaps maybe an organization to support and enhance competitive events, seeking financial assistance. Maybe that.
I like it.
And eliminate athletic.
Any discussion? So do we need to vote on each section? Okay,
No, I think you could, that would be helpful, thank you.
is there a motion to approve section 1.0 with, would you want to make a motion on your changes?
Yeah, motion to amend the first sentence in section 1, introduction and background to read the following. The Florida County Tourist Development Council is pleased to offer a sports and event grant program for tourism or sports related organizations to support and enhance competitive events seeking financial assistance held on Florida's Space Coast.
Is there a second?
I second.
Discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? None, motion carries unanimously. On to 2.0.
Actually, Madam Chair, we're going to go to 4.0, with 2.0 and 3.0 being not eligible for consideration. Application process and key dates. As you see here, we have our fiscal year. The 2 cycles are cut the fiscal year in half, essentially, and we basically have for cycle 1, we have a 2-week application window, as you can see. A little shorter at cycle 2, because of other issues we had with other meetings and whatnot. But that's where we are as it stands now.
Anybody have any changes to 4.0? Is there a motion to approve 4.0? Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
The first and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Madam Chair, Scott, second.
Steve Scott, second. Lyndon's first.
Section 5.0 eligibility. In the past, the sports event grants require a minimum of 200 room nights, whereas the new sports event development grant applicants had to produce a minimum of 1,000 room nights, as it was written in those guidelines. And we want to have some discussion about perhaps reducing the 1,000 to 200 just as a sports event grant.
What was the discussion in the past? Why was it raised to 1,000?
I think, Jamie might correct me if I'm wrong, because I think it was a discussion he was involved in at one point, but it was that if we're looking to bring new events and attract new events, let's focus our dollars on events that would make a significant impact. I think that was the gist of the discussion.
I believe we carved out certain monies we put aside for this for new events, larger events,
Right.
more appealing. So, yeah.
Do you have applicants that are able to produce those numbers of 1,000 room nights? Because so far, the ones we heard today have not.
No, I have not since being here. I've not seen any.
Right. So we're going to deter a lot of these applicants who do not meet that expectation. So I disagree with the minimum of 1,000 room nights.
I think that, at least the last meeting I was at, there was some discussion about putting aside a certain amount of our funding for smaller events. So that we don't dissuade everyone who does not have a large event from getting some benefit from this organization. And I know there was some discussion about it, but I don't know where it led, but it involved a smaller event that wanted to come in, and the ultimate decision was kind of based on a number of rooms, which if that's what the direction we go, that's fine. But it seemed to me that in this, like you mentioned, it tends to limit those that may grow and get larger. If they don't get here, then they may never grow, because at least not here. So I would be opposed to that 1,000 limit. That seems a little high to me. And I think we should try to see if we can set some money away. Maybe then you go to your, how much money you would be available to, which, yeah, maybe that becomes a smaller amount for the smaller events.
So on page 5, it's spelled out how much they get per permit, correct? Would it not make sense to follow that? Oh, sorry. Sorry. I
believe it's page 12.
Page 12 of the new.
And yeah, I mean, certainly the committee could adopt that chart to be used for new or existing events.
Is there any reason why we didn't have just a flat rate per room with a minimum and a maximum rather than the bands? Was that something that was done in the past and didn't work? Or because I think if you work it out on a rate per room basis, obviously it's more generous in terms of the 5,000 level than it is when you get up to the higher numbers. And I didn't know where the logic of that come from in terms of the bands. Perhaps somebody's got some more history that would let me know how that came about.
Does anybody know the history on that?
I want to say I'm not 100% because this was something that was in place when I started, but I believe it had to do with, the range of running from, I think, what, 25 to 200 minimum room to $5,000, that'd be 25 a room. And then if it was 1,000 plus, obviously then that it goes down on a cost per room basis. So I think it was budgetary to try to put some cap on it. Because what if somebody came for, with 2,000, 3,000 room nights and you're giving them $25, that could eat into your budget pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's why I was saying maybe put a cap on it. And if it goes over that, then it goes into the big event, different category. So we do have a minimum and maximum cap, and then have a flat rate. Just would seem a bit more logical.
I do think there's usually a discrepancy between what they say they're going to bring in versus what they do, obviously. So I don't know if that's why, I don't know why the gap was put in, but
Yeah,
I wonder if that has something to do with it.
It did, but then the committee later on, in one of the guidelines that we changed a few years ago, what we would do is, for instance, they only hit 80% of their room night number, then they would only get 80% of the grant. So it kind of mitigated that, because if they didn't hit their goal, they were only being reimbursed for the number of rooms or the percentage of rooms that they hit. So, if they were supposed to hit 1,000 and they hit 800, well, sorry, you're going to get 80% of whatever you were awarded. So.
That would be based on generally what we're talking about is in 1.7, or how you determine whether you met that guideline or you didn't meet that guideline.
I mean, the way it is today, the room night calculation is really based on, they have to report the rooms, and they have to provide the sales sheet from the hotel and all of that.
And that's attachment A, the lodging report. Some event organizers actually use a third-party source for housing, and they provide the report. So
Page 27.
So this is something that I've been kind of looking at since I joined the organization a year ago. You know, at 200 room nights, Jake, you might be able to back me up on this, but in my experience, these people are not looking for grants. They don't do marketing, they don't do promotion. There's more of an internal kind of operation. I don't know if you know International Baseball Championships. They don't have to advertise, they don't have to market, they don't have to promote. They have people that are consistently coming to their events when they host them, wherever they host in the country. Their interest is mainly, we want to come to your place. We just need to have our field fees paid. We just need to have our umpire fees paid. If you want to give us some money for medals, that's great. They're not looking to go through the entire grant process, because for all the reasons that you're doing the grant process, which are great for a lot of events, you get down to 200 room nights, they're just looking for you to cover their field fees. Now, I'm not suggesting any changes at this moment, but I could certainly develop something that could be shown to the committee at another time for us to kind of look at this, because you make a great point, Ms. Parker, that, you know, these numbers are rather small in some cases. Somebody's bringing 1,000 room nights. Certainly they may have that need for marketing and promotion. But the way that this committee, my opinion, was set up originally for bringing in big events. But I can tell you that in the industry, you don't always have to go after these really big events if you bring in a whole lot of small ones. And they're easier for an organization to pursue and to bring in. They're easier to get onto the fields, and they're easier to get paid for, and they fill your hotel rooms. I made a career doing that. So I just offer that up as a suggestion. Every point that everybody's making is 100% correct on the grant guidelines for events, for sports grants. But it's also showing the concerns that you're showing here on moving forward and really doing things in a way that's going to bring in more business while still taking care of the people that are applying for all the grants that we have going forward.
Any other discussions? So is there a motion to change that in 5.0 or approve as it is?
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
For the new people, I know there's a couple of us on the committee. Can you give us a 10,000 foot? How's the last 3 years been? Have we allocated our budget? Will we allocate half the money? How has this committee performed in the last year?
Sure. Yeah, we've over the last, I'll just take COVID year out of it, okay, because that was an odd year. But so for the last 3 out of 4 years, the committee's had somewhere between a $220,000 budget to work with, and some of those funds get reimbursed for events that we can go to the state Florida Sports Foundation for reimbursement. So we've gotten some additional, like $40,000, $35,000 to $40,000 in reimbursements from them. So you can add that to the pie. But basically, yeah, the committee over the last 3 or 4 years has pretty much allocated all of that 200+ thousand. So, but you know, the nice thing is if we can go get funds back from the state, that helps augment that, and we can do a little bit more. And then I've always said, you know, look, if we're bringing in more events and we need more funding in the second cycle. So like this cycle, I think we have 11 applicants. You know, I don't know where that's going to land in terms of the number of room nights and how much they might get allocated, but you know, let's say they get allocated a significant amount and we need more funding for the second cycle. You know, I would really be interested in looking at finding, you know, some additional funds for that, because these are guaranteed room nights. You know, you don't get that with just everyday marketing. You don't know what you're going to get from from a room night perspective. So I think the 220 should be enough, plus whatever we can get from Florida Sports, it probably bump that up to 250, 260. But if it's not enough, I'm happy to go back and look at our marketing budget and see, if we need more funds.
Peter, there was also, I know, events in the past that we've supported and haven't materialized, and there's been carried over, I think, almost on every cycle.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, there's been a few that, there's always one or two or three events that for whatever reason they don't happen, and then those funds get kind of carried forward into the next budget. Where these funds come from, it's our marketing budget, so it's a pretty big pot of money, so.
Do we have a carryover amount?
That we don't categorize because it's part of the marketing budget. We know what our carry forward is. So, that's why I was saying if we need additional funds, I can find them because we have carry forward funds in the bigger budget that I can pull from. But yeah.
Okay, so for 5.0, there's actually two paragraphs. So I do need a motion for the first paragraph, whether we want to keep the 1,000 nights or reduce it. Is there a motion on the table?
Reduce it to the original 200 as being the minimum.
Okay, so there's a motion by Chelsea to change the minimum to 200 room nights.
Yes, ma'am.
For a second,
Jay Cornbucker, second motion.
further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimous. Now for 5.0, paragraph 2.
In the second paragraph, it states that a event application scoring 70 or higher be considered eligible for funding. And the question is, do you want to keep it there, or the discussion as to changing it whatsoever?
I've never scored an event before. This will be my first time on the committee. Can you kind of walk us through what the average is on your singing? Is this a doable number?
Sure. So when it comes time in April, what you'll do is you'll take your score sheet that is in your packet, and you will go by each category and grade accordingly based on the information that is presented to you. Once that happens, we will receive all 9 score sheets, and we'll take out the highest score, and we'll remove the lowest score as well, and then we'll take the average of what's left. So we'll have the trim mean essentially of each applicant. As it stands now, anything that scores the lowest 70 would be ineligible for funding, and I would have to make a phone call to them and state that to them. Everyone else would go forward, would be eligible, and would be moved on based on the recommendation for funding to the TUC.
I think the question is, are there viable candidates that have scored less than a 70 and are deserving of funds? And I think in our history, that has not proven to be the case. I mean, once you start looking into these and it's interesting, there's a lot of unanimity in terms of the scoring. Generally all of us score around the same area. And not in terms of the points, but who we consider the top 3 and who do we consider to be the bottom 3 and such. And I don't think there's been any that we've denied that we've had regrets about. Speaking for individuals who've been doing this. Some of them, I mean, it's almost comical. You'll have an organizer who has multiple events, and even though the size of the event is different, he's submitting or she's submitting the same amount of budgetary information for all of the events. So an event that requires the same amount of fund for 1,000 is the same for 250. It just doesn't make sense. So you'll start seeing that. Hopefully, we've rooted out a lot of that, but that's been an issue in the past.
Okay, so is there a motion on the table to, I guess we need a motion for no changes, or just a motion to approve it as is?
Approve it as is.
Is there a motion to approve as is?
Motion?
Lynn moves.
Fred Poppy, second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. On to 6.0.
2.0 available funds. Basically, as far as the funding award amounts, in order to support larger events, we toyed with the notion of perhaps adding another tier for the funding levels. So instead of our top maximum amount being 20,000, I would go up to 25,000 for the event.
How's that break down? Does do all the levels, funding levels move up a certain amount? Or are we just looking at the largest one?
We're just looking at the largest one, so accordingly, so it'll be 20,000 and 1 to 25,000. Everything's in increments of 500, so it'll be 1,501 room nights plus. So anything bringing in over 1,500 room nights will qualify between $20,000 and $25,000.
So we're just adding one month.
It's adding one level, correct?
Any discussion? Jerry?
May I ask one quick question? Lawyers, lawyers read contracts and read back then. You put generalized terminology in something like you say that the 220,000 available fiscal year is the project to demonstrate a positive impact to Brevard County tourism, which is inconsistent with the first introductory paragraph 1, which basically says the purpose of it is to show a significant economic impact. Two different things, or maybe they are the same. So you're writing things so that you don't have confusion between two different paragraphs within an agreement. They should be somewhat similar. What that purpose is why we're giving funds. Or giving funds for either both, and maybe they're the same thing, but if you were reading that, it's not inconsistent maybe, but it's vague. That's what you mean. I don't mean you change it, you got your own attorneys, I'm sure, who can look at the documents that created it, but I'm just telling you, look at things like this, and you look at things the way they're termed. It appears that the basic purpose of giving the money is for a positive impact on the county as it relates to tourism, which could be a number of different things that are different than economic impact. So if economic impact is the major concern, there probably could be some language in the available funds that it will impact economic impact. The purpose, that is one of the main purposes of why you're doing it, and probably should be in there, but.
I think that's a good catch. We could add the word economic impact to it. Yeah.
To make it clear that, and I think that is the purpose. I'm not saying it isn't the purpose, it probably should be consistent.
Any other discussion on?
Terry, to add the tier, is it just to appeal to more groups? Because earlier you had mentioned you hadn't had a request for a grant larger than 1,000 room nights. Is it just to appeal to larger events to add the tier?
I would like to think so, yes.
Okay,
I think if we were to add this extra tier, then perhaps the possibilities we would have more larger applicants to apply for our grants, which would in turn affect the economic impact.
and then earlier, you guys had mentioned before my time here that you did have an applicant, and maybe it was the boat, something where boat races where we pushed them to apply for a different grant. So when do we push? When do we?
Yeah, that grant, you have to have 25,000 attendees at
Okay.
your event. So that's the minimum for that grant program.
Okay, and I'm guessing
It's in a whole different tier than most of these types of programs.
okay, so even this new tier wouldn't have even gotten, wouldn't,
Most likely not, because the rooms are generated by the attendees and by the participants of the event, not necessarily by us, the spectators of the event. I think
okay,
the thought was with the boat races, that's more of a spectator heavy
okay,
type of event. You know.
thank you.
So can we take a look at the all the tiers then? Because what I'm looking at is 200 minimum is 5,000. And the difference between the next grouping is 2,500 and the next one's 7,500. So maybe we can achieve this by looking at maybe equalizing some of that. Maybe having the same gaps for each tier. You can still achieve that 25,000 cap, but it just doesn't make sense that they're all so different. And why is the 500 to 1,000, why is there a $7,500 gap in that one? The other one's like only 2,500.
Well, I was actually, going back to Lynn's idea of why don't we just do it, $15 a room with a maximum of 20, up to $25,000. That would get you. That'd be 1,666 rooms. So that gets Terry where he wants to be, which is those events over 1,500 rooms. If you just said $15 a room, then it wouldn't matter whether they were a small event, big event, they'd all get the same proportional amount.
Where did you get the $15? What is your thought? I was just wondering what your thought
I was
process.
looking at the top tier, where it says, like right now, it just says 1,000 plus, and it says 15,000 and 20,000, so I was just using 15,000, but I was 15.
Okay.
And I'm also cheap, so I was going on the low side.
Lynn, is that what you were going for before? That's what you brought up before, basically?
Yeah, because it didn't seem equitable as I was going through with the different levels. So I just want to know the reason why.
So there are, I guess there could be one motion made. Correct me if I'm wrong. To change the funding award amounts to $15 per room. And the verbiage in the first paragraph to demonstrate a positive economic impact. Anybody want to make that motion?
Just, and we're saying per room, not per room night.
Per room night.
We are saying per room.
Yeah, it would be per room night, and then I just make sure you say a maximum of 20 to 25,000.
Anybody want to make that monster motion? Monster.
Chelsea Parker makes the motion.
You have it?
We got it.
You got, but you have the verbiage of
Yeah.
the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
Lynn, second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And Chairman, I just kind of give you maybe a little more information. One of the things that, Terry has been tasked with doing, and one of the things that we're doing as an organization is we're expanding the reach of the Sports Commission to go to more trade shows, more conferences, to reach out, find more organizations, more event organizers to bring into the community. So having this additional tier is a great thing because now we're just a far more competitive position. As an example, Polk County, Florida, for their grants, they have $320,000 for their non-grant programs of people that are coming in just for team or field fees and umpire fees. Their budget is $3 million. So our competition here in the state of Florida, and Kevin Smith was just here recently and told us we are in the single most competitive state when it comes to sports. So no shade on Michigan, but yeah, that's what we're competing against. So having the additional tier, that's why Terry's going out doing more shows. It all makes sense.
Right, will you have it listed in tiers, or are we just going to just have it said as $15 per room night? For a marketing standpoint, I'm just curious how you would like to list that.
It doesn't matter if, if it's $15 a night, and you say up to $25,000, that helps your sales pitch, right? Improve I think that gets them where it needs to be.
Okay, let's go on to 8.0.
All right. 8.0, it stands now, application submittal procedures. The applicants submit an online application and attachments to all events come to me. Applications and post event reports must also be completed online. Any questions also about this process are sent to myself.
Seems pretty straightforward. Is there a motion to keep as is?
Motion to approve the existing verbiage.
Lynn, motion, second.
Chelsea Parker seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Uh,
Opposed, motion carries. 9.1.
9.0 evaluation criteria and approval process. If you point your attention to point number 4, you see again the listing of the criteria for the new sports event held in Florida Space Coast for their inaugural event or within Brevard County for the first time in the last 5 years, must produce a minimum of 1,000 room nights in Brevard County.
This was a duplicate of what we already voted on.
Correct.
So
Madam
we
Chair.
need a motion to change that to 200 room nights.
That's correct.
Jamie Fitzgerald, motion to amend section 9, paragraph 4 to read a minimum of 200 room nights in Brevard County.
Jay Hornbacher, second motion.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
6.0 reporting requirements. To be eligible for payment, applicants must submit a post-event report within 60 days of completion of their event. All the attachment A and C are included in this. Failure to do so result in future disqualification for funding.
Another motion.
Has that time span worked out for you guys? Or
That's pretty much it. That's good.
it's good?
It's good. Yes, it is.
Okay.
You making a motion to approve?
I'm
Chelsea?
making a motion to approve.
Got a second?
Second, Jamie.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. On to 12.
And logo. Grantees event organizers must agree to prominently recognize the Space Coast Office of Tourism as the event supporter in all marketing materials and advertising website and other marketing related communications. The logo must be easily legible and be displayed in a manner which does not distort or warp the original logo style.
Motion to approve section 12 as is.
Sorry, could I just ask a question? Does the committee feel that it's important enough to include the verbiage that it says failure to comply with the report requirements will result in forfeiture, or is it not that important?
Read, going back to
Yeah.
it's 16. Is it?
Yeah, I was gonna respond, yeah, so one of the things and the reason why there's some, like heavy sections that have a lot of county attorney language in it is because, in the past, we've gone from, what used to be a few page contract, and now we have 25 page contracts. And so, in trying to cut the paperwork down, the county attorney said, well, if we put all the required language in the guidelines, then we can have like a 1 or 2 page contract when we get to awarding the grants, which will make the process really go a lot faster. So that being said, that would be a good addition to this if we want to put some stipulation in there. That could, if you want to soften the language to say potentially, I'll look over at Jerry, maybe he has some thoughts on that.
Lynn, what section specifically are you wanting to put that in?
It's one on that we're looking at right now in terms of the use of the logo, and it must be prominently displayed like
Yeah.
that.
I know in the paragraph we just approved reporting requirements, we have some similar language.
Yeah, that's what I took it from.
Yeah.
It's just like a repeat of that, or as Stephen says, do we want to soften it up a bit and just say subject to or.
Yeah.
Can't you just put in a catch-all paragraph at the end of that, in violation of any of all of the
Yeah.
provisions, and this will result in.
That's another option.
But in one paragraph, and then you don't have, there's a large, I'm trying to get it smaller, and to reduce the size. It probably should be taken up with the county order, I guess, decide what he wants to do. That would seem to be the logical thing to do, one paragraph that basically covers every breach. Failure to comply.
Failure to comply breach,
So just that one paragraph, that's probably something your county lawyer will want to look at.
So there's a motion on the table from Jamie to approve 12.0. You want to continue with your motion or withdraw it and change it to something different or?
Amend the motion on section 12 to include language that states failure to comply with the requirements set forth here may result in the forfeiture of funding.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that, then moves.
Any discussion here? Or anyone? Right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Okay, so that's it on the grant guidelines. Now we're on to the application.
Before we move forward, I just want to make sure, the committee. I understand that the county attorney language is not changeable, but I still feel like from a governance perspective, the committee should weigh in and accept the county attorney's languages in those sections that they didn't approve yet. Just being doubly sure, so when we bring it to the TDC, we can say if the committee is okay with 100% of the guidelines. And that's it. That was my only thought, is if we could just do one vote on just accepting the county attorney language in here as well.
Yeah, just,
Can I ask a clarification? Once we make modifications and changes, does it not go back to someone to review to make sure the changes we made are acceptable?
Yeah, I mean, we will send it to the CAO to review, but it'll go to the TDC for final, and then ultimately to the board. So I just wanted to make sure that everything that has been done in here is acceptable by the committee.
we can't approve the changeable amounts or the changeable items. Just let them know that the other were unchangeable by us.
I think Peter, what you're saying is we just want to vote to confirm that we have accepted
Right,
that these parts are unchangeable. We
right.
accept that.
Yeah.
And I think that's all it is.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. Thank you. Right.
Okay, so do you want to make a motion, Mike?
Jamie's good.
It is you.
Motion to approve those aspects of it that we aren't able to change.
Second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, now, we will get out of
So
here.
Randy, prayer.
On to sports and event grant program.
We'll mark it as a.
Thank you. Okay, great.
Next up, we'll take a look at our application. The last part of your packet, includes our sports grant application and
Page 31.
page 31 as it is. Thank you, ma'am. Are there any items, questions, that need to be addressed or changed perhaps?
If there's no changes, does anybody want to make the motion to approve the application? As is?
Ask a question.
Yes.
Can you tell us, for the new people, have you had hiccups and problems with certain groups?
No, we have not. And looking at applications from other municipalities around the state of Florida. These questions are pretty standard, as is with the Florida Sports Foundation. They're pretty much the same questions through and through. Yes, sir.
To piggyback off that, is there anything that you would like it to say that it doesn't? Or you, just again, you feel good about it?
I just want to make me feel good.
Okay. That's why.
So it's, again, it's all the questions. So when, again, from here on, when events are held or approved, rather I apply when it's time to, state funding. And it's very easy because it's pretty much the same question. So.
Okay.
Well, this is another way of presenting the question. Have you ever had an applicant come back and question or had?
That's not.
Right, we're looking for a motion.
Motion to approve the sports and event grant program application as presented.
Second by Lynn. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. The last thing we need to vote on, the score sheet.
Score sheet on page 28. The floor is open for any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this score sheet and the weights of particular questions.
Has it changed significantly in the past years? Is it the same?
It's not changed since I've been here.
Well, and I don't think it's changed a lot. I think there's been some tweaking, and I think that some points were given to certain categories a little bit more than others. I know the budget question was asked, was added, rather, a more detailed budget was requested of the applicants a couple of years ago, and that got it a little bit more points. So did the under soundness of proposed events, did the event organizer include a detailed budget? That was bumped up, I believe. That's only one I recall.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the score sheet as is?
Motion to approve the score sheet as is.
For a second,
Chelsea Tucker, second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Terry?
Sports event updates. February 19th through February 21st, we hosted the Room Golf Invitational Golf Tournament in Century. It was won by LSU. Based on our metrics, you can see there were about 1,945 individuals throughout the course of that tournament. February 11th and 12th, we had the Florida Marathon weekend. We had 1,965 participants, and it registered 1,133 room nights for that event. We also had, back in October 15th and 16th, we had the Cocoa Beach Half Marathon, which had 837 participants, and had 1,083 room nights. With the Beach and Board Festival, March 8th to March the 12th, we actually have a video of that event, a recap of that event. And following that recap, I'll invite Mr. Mitch Barnes to come up and add a couple of, speak to it about the event, if that's okay. And, Mitch, you can come on up. I was going to, do a synopsis, but I might as well let you come to the podium number right there.
Well, thanks, Terry. I want to talk about a few things if I can and open up for questions as well. If I can, I'll be pretty quick. Oop, is that better?
That's good.
All right. All right. Mitch Barnes. I'm with Smooth Running. I've put on a lot of events here over the past 20 years. And I'm a huge fan of the Space Coast. I was born here. And I've been working with the TDC about 20 years, going back to Rob Barley days when things were a lot different than they are right now. Rob used to like give us checks for $25,000 and say, have fun. So it was quite a bit different. Anyway, Beach and Boards Fest, we just saw the video. That event, this was our 10th year. It was actually the 9th time we've done it because we did it, took off a year for COVID. But there's nothing else like it in the world. It's the only event where competing brands compete against each other and all come together for the good of an event. And that's largely because Ron Johns is behind it. I'm not stupid to understand that. But they all come together, and what we really did, we keep adding new things. It showcases everything that is good about the Space Coast. I mean, everything. Only board sport we don't have is snowboarding. And if I could figure that out, I would do it. But you see, we built a 40 foot wide by 240 foot long wake tank in the parking lot of Shepherd Park. That's what those wakeboarders were in. They were in a parking lot. And we legitimately get about 50,000 people this year. This year, you saw from the surfing, we were really blessed with good weather and waves. It was in the 80s, and we had 3 to 4 foot surf the entire time. And that really makes all the difference. So it's a great event. People come from all over. Again, there's nothing like it. Some of the events we have, and I know you may have seen it already in my packet, we have the biggest pro surfing contest in the state of Florida, sanctioned by the World Surf League. So we get their lower level pro events, but we get all the best upcoming people kind of in the world. And we get also a lot of has-beens. That's who we get. We don't get the best now because they're out on the world tour in Australia during our event. But many of the people who have won our, probably 6 or 8 people who have won our event in the past, they're now on the world tour. So we get people on the way up. We have the biggest kayak fishing tournament in the state of Florida. We have the biggest high school girls beach volleyball tournament in the state of Florida now. We have a skateboard half pipe that you saw, and Mike Rogers is involved with that with me a bit. And then we also have kite foil racing, which is becoming a big deal. And we had many of the best people in the world in that. So all told, we have hundreds of competitors in this thing. Stand-up paddleboarding also. We do a yoga event that's just on the beach, and we do that and it sells out in like a day. We only charge $10 just so people have skin in the game, and it sells out in a day. And all that money is given right back to the Women's Center of Brevard. So I think we gave them $2,500 this year, sold it out. But it's a great event. It represents everything that's good about our community. And I kind of wanted to just show that video because it's hot off the press. It's not a final yet, but when Terry told me about this meeting, I said, now's the perfect time to share this, especially since a lot of people in the room, we don't know each other. And I just kind of wanted to be a face of a guy that puts on stuff here on the Space Coast. So, please. So, I've been doing this a long time. If there's any questions you might want to ask of an event producer, I think I'm as capable of anybody as answering them. Things that concern us, things that we like, things we don't like. I'm here if you want to ask anything.
Who put the video together?
There's a guy named, the company's called NPI. And I actually introduced him to the TDC way back. It's a guy named Dalton Smith. He's so talented. He shouldn't be living here. He's so talented. And I mean, he could go anywhere. But his company does a lot of my race videos, if you've seen any of those. And he's been doing this work for us for several years, but he's the real deal. I mean, he could work anywhere.
What are your marketing outreach efforts? Where will this video go?
Well, it's going to go on YouTube and it's going to go back to all the sponsors. I want to share it with Terry and Peter here in the TDC office and have them get it out. But it's really just a wrap up that we give back to our sponsors and partners. That's what we do. And, we share it it'll be on Ron John's Facebook page. I share it on my stuff, but that's kind of as far as it goes, but it does tell the story.
Yeah. I think it would go further. A little push.
Our event's awesome. I mean, there's really nothing else like it.
It's a nice video.
Yeah, thank you. So I also wanted to add too, because I heard, John, we haven't met in person yet, but you mentioned the Florida Sports Foundation and the SFS actually joined up with us this year. I didn't know that's what they were going to want to do when they came in to sponsor, but they made our stand-up paddleboard race. And then I threw in a 1 mile swim this year just because I didn't have enough going on. So he threw in that 1 mile swim and they actually brought those in as Sunshine State Games events. So the medalists were given Sunshine State Games medals. And they want to continue hosting that here on the Space Coast as part of Beach and Boards Fest. One other thing to add to is the Cocoa Beach Triathlon, which is coming up next month. That's also my event. Biggest sprint triathlon in all of Central Florida. It's a home run, and I know it's up for consideration soon again. But they announced that they're going to make that their senior games state championship event too. So I've already put that word out, and Cocoa Beach Triathlon sells it every year. We have 750 entrants. I cap it because that's a lot of bikes to have on A1A. And I feel that's kind of my threshold for safety right there. And we're ahead of schedule from last year. So we'll be sold out in the next week or 10 days again on that race. And anyway, that'll be the Senior Games Championship race. The National Senior Games people don't have triathlon included yet, but they're planning on bringing it into Pittsburgh next year. And so this will be the people that qualify from the state of Florida to participate in the National Senior Games Triathlon. Pretty cool event, is what I'm saying. One other thing, while I've got the podium here, if I could talk about the Florida Marathon a little bit that we just had in February. Numbers are coming up again post-COVID. We're finally seeing regional races. The Cocoa Beach Half Marathon didn't quite see it last year, but regional races are starting to ramp up to almost pre-COVID numbers. The big races like the Chicago Marathon, New York, and Boston, they never had a blip. But regional races like ours at Cocoa Beach in Florida, they kind of fell off the cliff a little bit, but now we're building back up. But what we did this year for the Florida Marathon, I'm super proud and thumping my chest a bit, is we were the very first race in the world to have a neurodivergent category. And we had about 20 athletes run the race, either with Down syndrome or some form of autism, and I actually gave it awards to them. So it's pretty cool. And I think that a lot of events, the Boston Marathon is going to be doing it in April. And the world majors, which is Boston, Chicago, Berlin, New York, Tokyo, London, they're going to be doing them all, have neurodivergent categories. So my point is, in 2 years, I bet you every race in the nation has a neurodivergent category. I've always done like para events where I have like para athletes doing stuff, but nothing for people with mental disabilities. So we were the very first race. So it's kind of cool. And that started here. That said, I'm happy to be involved with you guys, and I appreciate the support. Our costs have gone up really big time post-COVID, especially for coning and barricades. I mean, they've gone up over 100%. So you guys all are in business, I suspect, and see it too. But thanks for the support. It is appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we get to the public comment, I'll go to speak to some of our upcoming events.
If I could, there's just one other comment I'd like to make about the test event updates and Madam Chair. It's really kind of the unseen value of sports events, especially when it comes to collegiate teams. Because some of this background I did on the Moon Golf tournament was every college, and here I don't remember how many colleges were involved in this tournament, but every college in their school newspaper, on their website, were all talking about their team competing in the Moon Golf tournament in Brevard County, Florida. And that's the kind of unseen value of sports tournaments, especially when it comes to the collegiate game, is that you're getting this free advertising that goes out. So we had with Purdue, I know, was one of the teams.
Florida State, UCF.
Out of state ones.
Yeah, there were 16 teams. There were 15 Division I programs and 1 Division II program for high level competition.
Yeah. So it's just, I love sports, so it's just really cool to be able to see that kind of additional value that you're getting out of these tournaments.
Can I just add one thing? My daughter goes to Northwestern, and she sent me a text and she said, "Dad, Northwestern's playing at Suntree." So she was there like all over.
Upcoming events, April is a very busy month for us. We have the Space Coast Class Soccer Tournament coming up April, this weekend, as a matter of fact, at Vieira Regional Park. Mitch already mentioned the Cocoa Beach Triathlon on April 16th. We have the Moon Golf Junior Championships, April 20th through the 23rd, which is a American Junior Golf Association sponsored event, championship event. And then finally, we have the ESA Southeastern Regional Championships, April 21st through the 23rd.
Okay. Anybody, or I guess we need public comment? We need to open up for public comment.
Hello. Can you hear me? All right. Yeah, my name's Mike Rogers. We've been doing an organization called Grind for Life for 19 years now. We're based here in Cocoa Beach. Our office is right over there. You can see it's a brick building. We've been doing skateboard events, charity events to help people with cancer for 19 years. We hired an event company to run our series for us 10 years ago. So we're the series for the country. So we bring in people from all around the United States, all around the globe to learn how to compete on a professional level, but we do it as a amateur series. So you get your experience through the Grind for Life series. So it teaches you how to travel, it teaches you all the stuff that what it takes to be a professional skater through the series. So we have world champions from our series. We have skaters of the year from our series. We have athletes from Cocoa Beach are going to Dubai to compete from Brevard County. So yeah, we're just want to introduce myself and I'm a professional skateboarder. I compete in all the master pro events all over the world. And yeah, we're just trying to grow skateboarding here in Brevard County. We're working on a wellness Olympic training facility. We're working on the property right now. We have a rendering of the property working, a virtual rendering, kind of like what the city hall has here right now. They just did their virtual rendering of their new city hall and stuff. So we're just working on a facility where we can host big pro events here. And I talked to Terry about what we were doing and where our fit would be great with you would be help cover the cost of production company to run the pro event. Like we have, like the Beach and Board Fest, Mitch does a great job, and that event is pretty much after this week is maxed out Cocoa Beachers, no parking, no rooms. So that's an issue. So like when you start events here in Brevard County, you max them out, like Surfing Santa is like, we're part of that. We're one of the beneficiaries of that event. I've been working with George since the third year of that event, and we built it up to this, and it's maxing out this whole area. So like the cruise ships and stuff. So we're kind of looking for a property 5 acres northern Brevard. So yeah, that's my history. I just wanted to let you guys know what we do and my history of doing skateboard events. I help Mitch with his, Insta Ramp event. We do kids clinics. We do, I do all the skateboard camps for Cocoa Beach through the Kiwanis Club. So we take kids from community night. We do a community night at Cocoa Beach every 2 weeks. Brings in kids from all around Brevard, entry level skaters learning how to do basic tricks to learning how to compete on a national stage through our series to world champions. So
Great stuff.
that's what we're working on here in
Thank you.
Brevard County. So thank you all for showing up today and doing these great meetings and helping everybody with their grants to make these events happen. So thank you.
Is there another card for public comments? Not, I will close public comment. And I guess we need a motion to adjourn. Surely somebody wants to adjourn. Second,
Kelsey Parker, second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.